God told Abraham his descendants would be slaves in a foreign land for 400 years. Now, I was taught that that was the Israelites in Egypt when I came to Christ 20 years ago. Here's how we know it wasn't. Joseph was running the show when he moved his family into Egypt. In fact, he put them in the plush land of Goshen, the best part of Egypt, because he said, my people are shepherds. The affliction did not start until Joseph died and the Pharaoh rose up, who the scripture says did not know Joseph. Now, his brother Levi is the great-grandfather of Moses. He died at 137 years old. Think about the age of your great-grandfather. 4 generations is all there was. Historians, including Josephus, trace the genealogy, and it shows only 215 years were spent in Egypt, with only half of that being oppressed. So when you look at that verse that says the children of Israel dwelled in Egypt for 430 years, depending on the translation from the original Hebrew, like the Septuagint, you'll see that it actually says the time the Israelites dwelled in Canaan and Egypt was 430 years. Paul verified this by saying that from the time Abraham received the promise as a foreigner to the time of Moses was 430 years. In Genesis 15:13, God told Abraham his descendants would be oppressed for 400 years. If you follow the Old Testament, after God led them out of Egypt, you'll see a people who repeatedly rebelled against God, served other gods in the wilderness. When he brought them into their land, they sacrificed to other gods. They followed the horoscopes, the genealogy, the stars. Moses told them at Mount Sinai, look at the top of that mountain burning with God's presence. Remember, lest when you get into the land he's taking you, you start looking up and worshiping the stars and the moons and the host of heavens. They did all of this stuff. And as you follow the story, you'll see that God eventually says, let those other gods you serve come help you. And he turned his back on them because they repeatedly, over and over, turned their backs on him. And when he sent them the Messiah, they killed him. So he said, okay, no problem. The people that I originally had this prepared for have rejected it. Now we're going to open it up to the whole world. So when we hear about people who say that the Messiah is only here for Israel, that there's no one else who's going to be saved but Israel, it's amazing because Israel is the one that for the last 3,500 years have rebelled against God over and over again, killed the Messiah, yet now they have the audacity to say the Messiah is only for us and not for anyone else. So you have to be careful who you listen to, but we understand at this point that the only people who have fulfilled the promise of Genesis 15:13 are the descendants of the transatlantic slave trade. And God said after 400 years, he would judge the nations that took us, and he would gather us, and he would bring us back to the lands that we were scattered from.